On December 1st, 2023, India witnessed one of the most violent and controversial mainstream films in recent memory, Animal. And among all its scenes, the Interval Hotel Massacre stood out to me the most. Chaotic, brutal, emotional, and deeply disturbing. But after reading Robert Sapolsky's book, Behave, The Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst, I started looking at that scene differently. No violent act begins at the moment it happens. To understand any behavior, especially extreme violence, we must move backward in time. Seconds before, hours before, months before, years before, childhood, culture, and even evolution. So this made me wonder what exactly was happening in the protagonist, Ranvijay's brain, before the hotel massacre. The real beginning of the hotel fight probably starts a month earlier, when Vijay's father survives an assassination attempt. According to Sapolsky, trauma fundamentally changes how brain perceives the world. After severe threat, the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, becomes hypersensitive. The nervous system starts anticipating danger everywhere, and that is what exactly happens to Vijay. After the attack, begins preparing for a war, arranging body doubles, gathering cousins, buying weapons, planning retaliation. His brain is no longer operating like a civilian nervous system. It is operating like a survival system. Stress hormones like cortisol remain chronically elevated. Adrenaline systems become sensitized. Attention narrows towards possible danger. Hypervigilance becomes constant. And Sapolsky describes stress not simply as fear, but as loss of predictability and control. And from this point onwards, Vijay's brain never truly calms down. But the strongest psychological trigger happens a few days before the fight. Vijay realizes that the threat to his father came from inside the family itself. This matters because for Vijay, his father is not just a parent. His father is approval, identity, emotional meaning, almost his entire psychological world. Once that attachment is threatened, the brain begins categorizing people differently. Sapolsky repeatedly explains that human empathy collapses when someone is perceived as an existential threat to us. The brain shifts into a tribal thinking mode, us versus them. And this is where the film becomes psychologically interesting. The masked attackers in the hotel are not just a stylistic choice. Symbolically, Vijay, the protagonist, no longer sees them as individuals. They become faceless threats. The amygdala is now hyperactive. Stress, stress circuits are constantly engaged and empathy decreases. Vigilance increases. At this stage, aggression is no longer simply anger. It becomes the emotion of protection. But suppose you would also argue that even this is not the deepest layer. The deepest layer for this reaction lies in the childhood. Vijay grows up in a materially privileged but emotionally deprived household. His father is physically present yet psychologically distant. Children require emotional attachment, attention, validation, affection, and security, and without these experiences, emotional regulation systems may not develop properly. Sapolsky emphasizes that childhood experiences literally shape the frontal cortex, the part of brain that is responsible for impulse control, emotional regulation, and long-term reasoning. And Vijay never really learns healthy emotional regulation. Instead, anger becomes attachment, violence becomes protection, and approval becomes his obsession. He seems to internalize a very core belief. I must become extremely extraordinary, violent if necessary, to deserve love from his father. This is why his devotion towards his father feels less like normal affection, more like a psychological dependency. During adolescence, these patterns intensify. Sapolsky explains that teenage brains are neurologically unstable because emotional systems mature much earlier than self control systems. The amygdala becomes highly reactive long before the frontal cortex fully matures. This creates impulsivity, sensation seeking, emotional intensity, and volatile identity information. In Vijay's case, adolescence appears shaped by emotional neglect, obsession with parental approval from his father, suppressed vulnerability, and hypermasculine identity. Aggression slowly becomes fused with love itself, and violence becomes his emotional language. But this alone does not shape his reaction at that moment. Sapolsky also emphasizes that human behavior is deeply connected and shaped by culture and evolution. Humans evolved in small kinship groups where protecting family meant survival, loyalty, status, and tribal belonging. These are ancient biological instincts. The animal exaggerates these instincts to an extreme level. When Vijay's father is threatened, he assembles his cousins almost like a tribe defending its leader. At the same time, culture appears to shape how these instincts are expressed. Vijay exists within the world of patriarchy, male honor, dynastic power, emotional suppression, and violent masculinity. In many cultures, men are discouraged from expressing emotional vulnerability directly. So, sadness becomes anger, fear becomes dominance, and emotional need becomes violence. Vijay rarely communicates his emotional pain openly. Instead, he performs masculinity through aggression. Considering all of these points, let us move to a minute before the fight itself. Minutes before the shooting begins, Vijay arrives at a hotel to receive the custom made machine gun that he had already ordered before when his father's life was threatened and he was admitted in the hospital. This is important because his brain is already expecting danger. He just does not know when and how it is going to happen. Sapolsky describes the amygdala as a part of a system that elicits constant vigilance. Every sensory cue now matters: sound, movement, disturbance, silence, everything. His nervous system is already psychologically prepared for violence before even the first shot is ever fired. At this point, his cortisol remain elevated, adrenaline systems are primed, and motor systems are ready. At this time, the frontal cortex is still active. It's planning, scanning, and anticipating an attack, but it is not blind rage yet. This is just strategic hypervigilance. Then, a second before, comes the gunshot, and then everything changes instantly. This sound acts as an external cue confirming mortal danger. According to Sapolsky, the amygdala can activate survival responses before conscious thought fully catches up. In that single second, heart rate spikes, pain sensitivity drops, attention narrows, and reaction speed increases. The sympathetic nervous system floods the body with adrenaline and norepinephrine. The instruction to wear headphones at this point becomes interesting psychologically, as this marks the final phase of the frontal cortex information processing just before full on rage ensues. The frontal cortex, that is responsible for restraint and long term reasoning, becomes partially overridden by emotional urgency. This is why Vijay's reaction feels so immediate and animalistic. The brain temporarily shifts away from reflecting thinking towards older survival circuitry designed for fight or flight. There is no moral evaluation happening anymore. The nervous system has entered combat mode, and the fight itself evolves psychologically in three stages. The phase one is reflexive violence. The first gunfight is immediate and impulsive aggression. The amygdala dominates this behavior, motor systems activate rapidly, and the body reacts before reflection fully returns. This is survival aggression. The phase two, wherein the axe fight occurs, it becomes psychologically different here because after injuring himself, Vijay briefly performs first aid and then reassesses the situation. Here, some frontal cortical regulation and control returns. There is strategy again. But as the violence escalates, empathy continues collapsing. The attackers are no longer experienced as people, they are just threats, inanimate threats. Sapolsky explains that repeated violence can progressively suppress sympathetic processing, and nervous system now prioritizes elimination and not morality. The third phase is when he sits on the machine gun and starts fighting. The machine gun sequence is perhaps the most disturbing one because it's not impulsive anymore. It is actually organized aggression. Sapolsky repeatedly argues that most terrifying human violence is not emotional rage but calculated brutality. And that is what we exactly see here. Vijay is still aiming, calculating, strategizing, and tracking movement. His frontal cortex is active, but emotionally, empathy remains suppressed because the enemy has been fully categorized as an existential threat. At this point, his brain resembles a prolonged war state nervous system. The sympathetic system remains dominant throughout the sequence. The parasympathetic or the calming system barely appears at all. His body never returns to baseline, and hence the fight ensues. So, after knowing about all these things, we wonder, was Ranvijay born evil? And this is where Sapolsky's central argument becomes important. Behavior is never caused by one thing. Ranvijay is not simply evil. He is a product of childhood attachment, stress, trauma, culture, biology, tribal instincts, reward system, emotional conditioning, and many more things. Every major brain system has a cinematic moment in this sequence. The gunshot directly affects the amygdala's reaction. Strategic aiming is coordinated by the frontal cortex. Successful dominance is rewarded by dopamine, constant combat, the sympathetic nervous system, and childhood neglect and emotional dysregulation also play a role. That does not justify the violence, but it makes behavior more understandable. Sometimes I do genuinely wonder whether the director Sandeep Reddy Vanga read the opening chapters of the book Behave before writing the movie, because the film almost feels like a cinematic demonstration of Sapolsky's central idea. Human behavior is a result of several layers of influencing, interacting facets. And the film explores emotionally damaged masculinity, men who crave love, fear vulnerability, express emotional pain destructively. And whether the film critiques or glorifies this behavior is still to be debated. But what remains and what makes the character psychologically compelling is that this violence never feels random. It feels random in the beginning, but it feels more that it has been accumulated over time and it is randomly coming out at a certain point in time. And later, it is also calculated aggression. Honestly, reading Behave changed how I understood my own anger or how I react to situations itself. And this book does not excuse that behavior, but it teaches you to observe your own mind while emotions are happening. And maybe that awareness itself is the first step towards changing how we react. And if you are also interested in knowing and understanding how people react a certain way or why you are reacting a certain way yourself, I would strongly suggest that you go ahead and read this book, Behave by Robert Sapolsky.